Rotary Riverside Park is located in the heart of the city of Brainerd, Minnesota, on the east bank of the Mississippi River. The park consists of approximately 195 acres with an estimated 5,500 feet on the Mississippi River, over 1,250 feet on Little Buffalo Creek, 45 acres of wetland, 1.9 miles of trails, and a 14-acre field.
I've known about this chunk of land since my son was young. He's 34 years old now, and I discovered it when I went looking for him because he didn't show up for supper. And I knew that he was probably down, which we call it, in the woods. And I thought, well, it's time I go check and see if I can find him. And I did, and I came down to this area, and it was really my first time here. And I was surprised by what I saw, in that it was very overgrown, but it had a Mississippi riverfront, and there was a creek running through here, and there was kind of an open field that was rapidly enclosing with willow and other invasive species. And I never did find my son. He made it home in time for supper, and I was the one that was late. But I became aware of the land, and I just looked and I said, this land belongs in public ownership. And the parcel right in the very middle of all this land was privately owned, and I knew the owner, and I used to see him from time to time. And so I would start asking him about, what are your plans for that land? And finally it evolved to, if you ever think of selling, make sure you talk to me. And one day he stopped in at the office and said, I'm thinking of selling. And I said, this is what I would like to see, and would you be willing to work and give me a little time on this? And he said yes. The first thought I had was to talk to the organization that seems to know how to get things done, and that's the Brainerd Rotary Club. And I went and attended a board of directors meeting, and I said, Brainerd Rotary needs a park in the city of Brainerd, and I think I know where it should be. And through discussion, the board was entirely in agreement on this and very, very supportive. And so I went back to the owners of the land and said, we're interested, and this is what we'd like to see happen. They said, okay, let's get working on it. And so that was in 2010. And so we entered into a purchase agreement on the land, subject to financing, and we applied for a natural and scenic area grant. That was a grant fund from the state of Minnesota, and we received $17,500 for the purchase of this land, along with $2,000 from the Brainerd Lakes General Fund of the Central Minnesota Community Foundation. And then Rotary came up with the matching funds for the purchase of the land. We closed on the land probably end of 2010, maybe early 2011. And so we started looking, okay, now what's the plan for the park? We now had the land. Rotary, in turn, when they acquired the land, ensured that it was getting into the city of Brainerd's ownership. And City of Brainerd embraced this concept with the idea that this land would go to the city of Brainerd for development as a park. There were 3 parcels to the south of this initial 38-acre parcel, and they were Crow Wing County tax forfeited land. So we approached the county on the 3 parcels of tax forfeited land, and they said, yes, we do have a program where we do make this available. And it was about 17 acres. And so working with Crow Wing Land Department, we worked on a program where the county would be willing to sell that land, and it included 631 feet on the Mississippi River and about 1,225 feet on Little Buffalo Creek. And because it had waterfront, it took special enabling legislation from the state of Minnesota legislature. And so we had our local area representatives and legislators carry a bill down at the Minnesota legislature to enable the transfer of this land. And so in 2013, we were able to acquire these 3 parcels and for a purchase price of a little over $10,000. Rotary came up with the money for that, along with a very nice contribution by Millie Jertson. And Millie was a well-known person here in Brainerd and a benefactor to many conservation causes. The 3rd parcel was what we refer to as a Larson parcel, and that was in 2016. And that was about 25,000 square feet of land, and that was donated by Gary Larson and Bev Godey. And this land was important because it allows a trail corridor to be established that would give access to the south end of the park and give access to the bike trail that runs through the park. And the 4th parcels were numerous parcels from Edgewood Homes, and that was in 2017. And that was about 45 acres of wetland plus additional parcels east of the bike trail. And this was a donation to the city of Brainerd, once again engineered by the Rotary Club. This was important in that it protected Little Buffalo Creek waterfront, or riverfront, creekfront, and it allows access to the cul-de-sac and Linden Lane. So we have one more access into the park. And then in 2017, Harvey and Pat Johnston donated about 11.7 acres, and this once again gives a protected corridor along Little Buffalo Creek all the way to Linden Lane. And that once again was a very generous donation by Harvey and Pat. The total of all the lands acquired was over 100 acres and about 2,000 feet on the Mississippi River, and 1,225, well actually it's more than that when you consider the Edgewood Homes land and the Johnston land, so it's probably about 2,000 feet on Little Buffalo Creek. And this adjoins city-owned land, so we approached the city of Brainerd and said, okay, let's bring this all in as Rotary Riverside Park. And the city of Brainerd was magnificent to work with, and they agreed to do that. So altogether now we have a park of approximately 195 acres with over a mile of Mississippi River frontage and probably about 2,000 feet on Little Buffalo Creek. Now this park includes approximately 45 acres of wetland, 1.9 miles of trails, treed canopy wet plain, about a 14-acre field, and the riverfront, the stream front, the field, and plus the land at the entrance, which is maintained by the city and Brainerd Public Utilities, where we put up the gateway and the pavilion. Within the park, there is an approximate 14-acre field, and in 2019, the Brainerd Fire Department, along with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, burned the field to rid it of invasive species, and with the purpose of establishing prairie wetland restoration. Within the 14-acre field, there was a field of seeds, that's what we call it anyway, project established. And the field of seeds is about 8.5 acres, and in 2019, 16,000 plugs of threatened, endangered, and desirable species were planted. And this field of seeds will serve as a seed bank for projects of this biozone or the area of central Minnesota, and it'll be open when mature for the public to come down and use it for harvesting of seeds. So one of the focuses of the park has been education. And it is a natural environment park. It will not be developed into tennis courts and softball diamonds and baseball fields. It'll be a natural environment park, but the park is located immediately across the river from Central Lakes College. We have 3 schools right in the immediate area of the park, and it offers a wonderful environment for those schools for their natural resources classes, their horticulture classes, their biology classes, and as well as for their track teams and cross-country teams who use the trails at the park for their training and their running. The purpose of the park for many and a great part, is for education. And to make this for natural resources education, the park has the 45 acres of wetland, the 2,000 feet of Little Buffalo Creek frontage, over a mile of Mississippi River frontage, and the tree canopy wetland, as well as other open areas. And it is a wonderful area to come down and study the diverse habitats. Within the park, tree species include ash, mountain ash, Norway pine, white pine, red oak, bur oak, crabapple, choke cherry, silver maple, birch, poplar, and other species of trees. Wildlife within a park includes bear, deer, beaver, otter, eagles, osprey, ducks, geese, turkeys, sandhill cranes, swans, bitterns, turtles, as well as other species. There's been over 170 species of birds identified in the immediate vicinity of the Rotary Riverside Park. And along the Mississippi River, with over a mile of frontage, it becomes an important part of the Mississippi Flyway. And this can be witnessed especially in the fall of the year when the birds are migrating, and the bird activity in the trees along the river is really something to behold.
Well, I got involved about 10 years ago when we decided to put trails in, and I had some of the right equipment to actually do some trail clearing. And so that was a very formative time for me, because I kind of bought into the dream of what the property could be. So we were active clearing trails, and then we made them much more formal, and pretty soon I realized that this could actually be a municipal park of really great significance to the community, and a significant park even within the state of Minnesota. And so that kind of kindled the dream, and we continued to work on trails. And one of the things that was important to me is that it's an environmental park. And so we really when we had the chance to actually create what we call the Field of Seeds, that was a critical moment for us, because that would allow others who wanted to go back to a natural landscape to actually have a seed bank to go to in order to bring the prairie back to whatever state it was some 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So then we started talking about the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Club here in Brainerd. And so from that, we studied a lot of projects and thought that we should do something that would contribute to the legacy of Rotary actually being in Brainerd. We decided to mark the entrance to Rotary Park, talked to several contractors, designers, and what we ultimately decided to do is that we would probably just build something on our own. So through the work of many volunteers at Rotary, we were able to actually build the entrance that we're quite proud of today. And I especially like at the entrance that it states what the purpose of the park is, the vision for the park, states our motto, service above self, and gives tribute to those groups that really provided the funding for that entrance. the more we thought about it and talked about it, it really seemed that Rotary Park would be a significant contributor to the legacy of Rotary here in Brainerd. And we embarked on building a gathering place for not only for the club to gather and be proud of what we had done, but really give it to the community as a special place for them to congregate. So that led to our dedication last September of the pavilion that we now enjoy. Rotary Park is really quite unique in that it's an environmental park. It's the second or third largest park within the city limits here in the state of Minnesota. And because it's an environmental park, it's not really slated for a lot of development. There's a significant part of the park that's wetlands, and there are many miles of walking trails and that go alongside the river. We think it's quite a historical location because there is so much that happened in the river, on the islands, along the river, and so forth through the development of Brainerd. And so one of our future projects is to actually put signage on the walking paths along the river that talk about the development over the years and what happened at those different locations and the folklore and so forth of Brainerd. As Rotarians, there are members with a variety of backgrounds, and my background was as a mechanical engineer. We also had architects, we had carpenters, we had all kinds of backgrounds. And so as a committee, we would talk to designers, having our own architect, of course. We had our own ideas as to what it should be, but we had great difficulty in finding a contractor that made the projects we were talking about actually affordable for us. So the more we talked about it, we finally decided, we have all the skill sets. We aren't as young as we once were, but we probably could pull this off and actually build the entrance and build the pavilion on our own. And so we started down that path and got all of the approvals, had the engineering drawings done, decided we searched for the right vendors. We brought in timbers all the way from hundreds of miles away in order to get red pine where it needed to be. We put white pine where it should be. There's many considerations in structures like this, including the shrinkage and the strength and the weight and so forth. So it's not a trivial project. And we also had to do in this project, it's not typical residential construction. It's all heavy construction. So you just simply can't do this with residential grade kinds of equipment. We brought in our own crane to set trusses, put all of the posts in place, all the heavy equipment for landscaping. So among the many members of Rotary, we were able to actually pull together all of the skill sets that we needed. We have great appreciation for the help that we received from Teen Challenge. And those folks brought some skill sets that really complemented our own. The crew that actually built the pavilion, the average age was over 70. And what was terrific about that is that many of them had not done that type of construction before and thoroughly enjoyed the process. Enjoyed it to the point that at the end of the pavilion, the question was, what's next? Materials were quite a consideration, and Rotary being an international organization, we really think kind of maybe out of the box. The granite slabs that are engraved at the entrance were actually imported from India because they have the blackest granite, so lettering can be the most well-defined. brought our rock. It's hard to find split rock, but we did find it about 100 miles away at a quarry up in Bagley, and so we imported the rock from Bagley. So all of our materials have been uniquely sought out and in ways that are maybe not typical of an ordinary project. Well, for future projects, one of the first is to get electrical power into the pavilion. We need that in order to have a security system. We also need that in order to put in a solar system, and that's in our plans, to put in a solar system, have it grid tied, and actually contribute back to the grid. So we also have a fireplace, kind of a further gathering focus point at the pavilion. And it will probably be where a picnic puts their potluck items and so forth. So these are future developments. Eventually, we even hope to have a bridge across the Mississippi to connect us with the bike trails.
Right to the north of the Rotary Riverside Park is the new park being developed, which is being called the Mississippi Landing Trailhead. And that will be a significant trailhead and park along the city, along the river in Brainerd. And it will have a canoe kayak access, an outdoor learning center, access points to the river, a scenic overlook of the river, and a performing amphitheater. The next project after the Mississippi Landing Trailhead, we're hoping to use that as a launching point for a trail along the river in Brainerd, north through Brainerd, connecting eventually with Memorial Park on the north side of Brainerd. From Memorial Park, that trail could be extended out to Lund Park, from Lund Park to Bain Park to the Buffalo Hills Park to the Rotary Riverside Park, to Buster's Dog Park, to Kiwanis Park, and to the Mississippi Landing Trailhead. You'd have an off-street trail connecting all the city parks, and once again running through the Brainerd Rotary Riverside Park as an important part of that. Plans are progressing that this trail will be connected to the Cuyuna Trail. Hopefully someday it will be the Cuyuna Lake State Trail that will run from the Cuyuna Rec area through the property known as the Northwoods Acquisition by the airport, joining the trail system in the east part of Brainerd, coming into Brainerd and either joining the Buffalo Hills Trail or coming down the hill by the high school, where the trail will eventually go by the new Mississippi Landing Trailhead Park. This trail will, if it runs through the park, or if the trails through the park will be an important part of this, a hopeful trail extension from Rotary Park south along the east side of the river that would allow a looping trail from the Mississippi River Bridge through Brainerd to downtown Brainerd, across the river on the Laurel Street Bridge where it can join the Paul Bunyan Trail. From there you could go as far as Bemidji on the Paul Bunyan State Trail or down to Crow Wing State Park, and hopefully it will also be able to join with the Veterans Trail around Camp Ripley, join the Heartland Trail and up in the Walker area, get you over to Detroit Lakes, and eventually the trail system could extend south from Crow Wing State Park, joining the Sioux Line Trail, heading west to the Glacier Lakes Trail and the Lake Wobegon Trail. And this also would join with that trail that's been extended from St. Cloud to Moorhead. So it's actually becoming that the area of Brainerd along the Mississippi River and the new Mississippi Landing Trailheads becomes an important trailhead to a statewide trail system of incredible significance. And the trails run through Brainerd Rotary Riverside Park, and hopefully we'll see someday that will be part of the Cuyuna Lakes State Trail. The Mississippi Landing Trailhead was a citizen initiative that started, I believe, 8 years ago. And it led to getting a sizable grant, and now we're under construction with the Mississippi Landing Trailhead. I want to point out also that the Rotary Riverside Park, which is, I believe, within the top 5 certainly, but the second or third largest municipal park in the state of Minnesota, was also a citizen initiative. This came from people in Brainerd and the Rotary, and it was only through the involvement of people concerned about Brainerd and the Brainerd Riverfront and the possibility that this could bring to the citizens of central Minnesota, as well as the involvement of Rotary. Without the involvement of Rotary, nothing would have been done. Rotary is a club where things just happen. People step forward and you get Rotary involved and things are going to happen. So without Rotary, this park never would have happened, and without the citizen initiative, this park probably wouldn't have happened, and without the citizen initiative, the Mississippi Landing Trailhead Park probably would not have happened. That's true also with Buster Dog Park and the Kiwanis Riverside Park, or the Kiwanis, they sometimes called it the Duck Park. They're all citizen-led initiatives in the city of Brainerd that have led to, well, Rotary has over a mile of Mississippi River frontage, and you toss them all together, you probably have about 3 miles, maybe 2 to 3 miles of Mississippi River frontage.